Hey, so let's welcome everybody. Hey, my name's Eric. I know most of you have been here before. We have a couple of new folks. Wait, Alex says there's no audio. Can everybody else can hear me, right? Yeah. Alex, I think you might be muted, or you might have an audio issue on your end. I think everybody else can hear. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. We have a great crew here. A couple things before we do is that everyone that's here is welcome to contribute or not as much as they want. But every week we get together, we talk about a couple high-level ideas, share what we're working on, um, bounce off some support and maybe some problem solving. So if you have something like Melissa was saying, like a question, something you want to work on, if you have a project that you're working on that you'd like to share something as it's coming or as you're launching it, this is a great spot to say, hey, how does this copy look? Do you think this will convert? How should I test this? How can I do these stats? Because we're kind of all focused on helping everybody build their businesses up, which is awesome, and just kind of also get through this world. So yeah, thank you, Steve. I see Steve's talking to Alex in the chat. So I will go ahead and kick us off here really quickly with a couple high level ideas. And I wanted to, gosh, I'm experiencing something in my world right now, which is interesting and really new, which and I'm also really enjoying, and it's extremely stressful, which is, as all of you know, I've been really involved in the startup community for the last number of years, building the Fons platform and building the community around it. And I have recently, I think maybe, gosh, it was just like a month ago, I just reached this point of like the pressure of it get really almost getting to me. And because it's a very fun project. I love the process. I love the startup world. I love learning about the technology community and fusing that and all the people we serve. But suddenly, like last month, I just realized, oh my gosh, I've got this great community of human beings that I get to know and serve and build this platform for. But then there's this whole team of people that are building it. At one point we had 15 people just building the physical platform itself. And then there's investors, and there's all these people that I'm kind of, not maintaining, but I'm maintaining the relationship with, but they all expect something. And suddenly that just all occurred to me. And it was just like, I'm sure you've had this happen in your life. So hopefully there's some connection there where you're just like, oh my gosh, this is too much. Like maybe it's your 3 businesses, Melissa, but I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm just falling apart, and took some time to really get some perspective in it. And now I'm going through this process of it. We're getting ready to do a fundraising round, right? Which is that we are going to go out and meet with venture capitalists or investors, and we're talking to them, putting together a pitch deck to basically take Fons that we think is awesome and a really great spot and turn it into what we hope to be a really successful company, right? And and grow it, basically go out to raise money to build it. And it's a whole different thing, because now I'm out here talking to people that are totally different, that are looking at it from a totally different perspective, and meeting a whole new kind of gaggle and it's really interesting. It's really hard. Like, have you ever been through a period of life, maybe like when you're preparing for a show or you have something big coming, where like every night you just wake up like in the middle of the night and your mind's just racing, and it's really excited and really fun, and you believe in it, and it's also really stressful, and you're like, wait, but my best friend's an ER doctor, and I call him like 4 times a week. I'm like, Berman, any chance I'm having a heart attack? He's like, no, you're fine. I'm like, thanks. That basic, that kind of that cycle. So the reason I'm entering this is through this, what I've been experiencing through this intense focus is periods of like, and maybe you, and I hope you relate, of like, you go through a day where you wake up and you just don't care. Like maybe it's like, it's just too much. Like, I don't care anymore. Like, I'm just over it. And this has happened in my music a lot too, where you're so focused on like a big project, right? And whether it's being a classical guitar player or whatever in your business that you're doing, or a show, that you're really energized by it. And then you wake up one day and you're like, I'm so over it. Like, I'm done playing music, or I'm done teaching music, or I'm done running a technology company. Like, we got to find somebody else to do this. And then the thing that I was kind of searching and seeking for is this idea of things that we do that energize us, right? And this is what I've been really collecting in my life. Like, this moment of hanging out with you people really energizes me. When I get off, I'm like so pumped. Heard your stories, I've shared mine. It brings so much to me, and that's something I value. some parts of our process of especially a big project, whether it's like, what you're doing, Steve, with like getting your message out to all these schools. I'm sure there's times where you're just like, why am I doing this? Like there's elements of it that totally drain you, right? And my
Yeah.
yeah, where you're just,
I,
what is the point, right? Yeah, exactly. And
yeah, let's get a cabin out in the woods and stop doing anything on the internet. I'm like, right.
yes. Okay, so yeah, we're on the same page. Thank you. And so
I thought it was just me.
no, and I'm just trying to be aware of it, which is okay, what energizes me? And like, yes. And so late in the last month, I've been playing a lot of music. Every hour at the 55, I pick up either my classical guitar and I play a piece, or I sing a song, or I write a little bit. And it's been really helpful. And so my focus I've been doing is I've been taking notes and analyzing when I feel really drained of energy and when I'm feeling like totally like I don't want to do it. And I'm trying to make this decision because do you pivot and quit? Do you say, no, I'm done with this, I quit? Because that's a decision you can make sometimes, right? You can also say, no, this is discipline. I will grind my way through this difficult moment to get to the next level, right? And so like, I know Alex is here and he's just starting out. He's like a shredster, awesome guitar player who's starting a teaching business. And, going through that grind we've all been through of getting your first really great landmark clients, right? And I'm sure this moment you're like, dude, why am I doing this? But then you get 5 and then you have 20 and then you're making really great money and this is awesome. I just being aware, and I don't know if I have the decision making ability, which is what I'm getting to, and maybe as leading off of a jumping off point, is these moments when I'm like, oh, I'm so burned out on music, or if I'm feeling burned out on fonts, I don't have a choice because it's like it's my life. It's right now, it's just integrated into who I am. And I've had to plow through things that are really hard for me, like talking to venture capitalists and being talked down to by venture capitalists because they think they know everything. And then finding people you can, and being strong enough to wait for people that you actually connect with. Because I don't just want anybody to invest in this company that I've worked really hard on for a long time with a lot of people. You want the right people, right? And so anyway, I wanted to open up with the idea of, what energizes you? Do you ever feel like you just want to just stop doing everything and like maybe get some job working in the driver's license agency where you're just like, and how maybe you get through that, and then maybe we can just kind of roll that into what you're working on. I want to hear what people are up to. So, Melissa, I know you had an idea. Steve, your dog's coming to.
So I was just going to
Our
ask
pandemic puppy
Eric,
down here. Sorry, Melissa.
yeah,
Just
no,
the
that's okay.
dog.
I was just going to ask,
It's gonna
when
bark.
you're teaching your students, Eric, do you do they ever hit a wall in their learning and you say, hey, it's okay because it happens. You're going to hit a wall, but then you're going to get through it. There are going to be times you're not going to be motivated to play anymore, but don't give up. Stay with it because you'll get through that. And I know I do that with my students. And I feel like it's the same with what we do with our businesses. So if you give that advice to your students, are you willing to take that advice yourself and say, oh man, I'm hitting that wall right now, but I know it's going to get better. And I know this is a normal part of the process.
No, I should, but I really struggle with that, I think. And I think that's a great, and I say it every week to somebody. I'm like, oh, we got this. Just keep your head down and do it. But I think I'm dealing with the reality that like I have a very positive external narrative with the world and wanting you to succeed. And I think that I live with a very critical narrative inside my head. Like I'm sure a lot of people do, and it's really hard to apply the same, you know, motivational techniques to yourself as it is to those around you. So that's a great point. Melissa, do you want to tell us a little about what's going on with you? Do you want to kick us off?
Sure.
I'd love to.
Sure.
Your face.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you bring this up because I'm going through a similar situation. I have, feel like sort of a failure right now, but that's okay. We're all in it together. So I have my studio, which is running and I don't need any more students, don't need to market, don't need to worry about it. It just takes care of itself and it's fine. And then I have an online course for music teachers that I launched over the summer, and I get a little bit of traffic, a little bit of business, but I don't really promote it, haven't marketed it very strongly for a while. And then, of course, I have a podcast now for musicians and music teachers. And with the podcast, I'm in the same boat that you are right now with some things where I feel like, I'm not getting paid for this. Maybe I should just quit, because I don't know that it's really reaching anybody. I get very few downloads and listeners, apparently. I don't know. I'm not really in it for that, but I don't know if I'm really reaching anybody or helping anybody with it. I don't get paid for it. It's fine, but it's a lot of work. And I'm sort of like, maybe I should just give that up. And yet at the same time, I'll hear, I just had somebody comment to me privately, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're out there doing this." It's like, great. But, whew, right? It's a lot. And so my question was for the group, I've gone back and forth with trying to decide between, do I try to somehow integrate all three businesses, studio, teaching course, podcast, they're all music related, into one website, one entity, one business with three different, very distinct opportunities or offerings, and pare things down in a way to one website, one clearinghouse? Or do I keep doing what I'm doing, which is I've got separate studio websites, separate course website, separate podcast stuff, and keep it all separate because they are separate? And there are advantages and disadvantages to both. So I'm interested in hearing people's feedback.
Well, I know, I'm sure there's a lot of great feedback here to be given, but you do a lot. You do a lot with great care too, right? And I think everyone sees that, and I think it's a good question to ask yourself, because you only have so much energy, right? And it's fair to put it on the table to be like, something's got to go, right? Because there are, for instance, a podcast is an incredible experience for you to connect with people. I read something the other day about a podcaster talking about, like, hey, I'm not getting a lot of downloads, but I'm meeting the most interesting people each week, and they're getting more and more interesting as I go. And so it's kind of like, I'm really kind of doing this selfishly myself, and it's totally energizing me, right? And maybe that's you, but maybe it's like you at the end of the day, it's just too much to manage without by yourself, or which is fair. The other thing is podcasts take time to build, right? In the space, they take time to build a listenership. There's, how many people are there that could really listen to it and find it, but the ones that do get great joy, you have to weigh those things out. As far as aggregating your brand into one central location, like, you're the brand, right? I mean, and Steve's doing a good job of this right now, and so, which is, you're both like really, really good at what you do. Everybody knows you, everybody loves you. It's pretty fair to have your brand consolidated around what we're seeing right now, which is like, yes, I do this podcast, I do these teaching courses, and I do, my music teaching, because all three of those are important. But we can only focus on so much. And the other thing is, we can only focus on so much well, right? So you have a huge gift to give. And I would say, if there's an area, like, there's nothing more impactful than teaching people privately. So as I see people wanting to shift away from that, I'm like, no, that needs to be part of our fabric, because that is direct impact that is awesome. And that's what made us who we are, right?
Absolutely.
And then I feel like, the other two areas, it looks like I see some hands up, but I don't know who they are. Somebody raised their hand. So
Joellen, I saw.
Joellen, would you want to jump right in and just chat about this? Is a great topic.
Yeah, because I was thinking about the thing that energizes you. And when you find that thing, like for me, it's my teaching. You could do it 24/7, but the thing that you can't do that because the other responsibilities in your life. And when I think about that, that's where the burnout comes from, because you have that thing that energizes you. But when you get down to like whatever it is, your other responsibilities, you end up wanting to quit. And it's like how it was said that, oh, you just want to go out into the cabin in the woods, and the temptation is to just drop everything and like, I'm done. But really what needs to happen is that you need to have mini burnouts. Like, you need to look at all your priorities in your life and kind of lower your standards temporarily in one thing, so you can focus and make progress in the other thing. So it's like, that week, instead of having home cooked meals, it's like we eat out that week, so I can focus on my teaching, that kind of thing. So it's like just really just it's a constant riding the wave of balancing these responsibilities and having it just totally it just focusing on your priorities and how much wiggle room do you have between them.
I think that's a great point, Joellen. And hey, Joellen, you want to just introduce yourself really quickly and say hi? So yeah.
I'm Joellen from Frederick, Maryland. I mean, I'm still in Maryland. Eric grew up there, so we never met.
Very cool. Thank you, Joellen. That's awesome. That's a really good point. You know, what's going to balance you out, how you're going to do it. What are you thinking about doing, Melissa? Or did somebody else want to chime in something too? Feel free if you'd like to.
I mean, I've had thoughts both ways. That it's like you said, Eric, I'm obviously energized by teaching, and that's my passion. And I love to be able to share through the course, the Music Lesson Pathways course, how I've been able to keep a really good bottom line and a steady income and kind of create the studio that I want with other teachers. And this podcast thing has been so much fun, It's like, it's great to meet people. But I'm like, I don't have any money to pay a producer. Like, I can do the editing, I can do all that stuff, but like, wow, it's big. And, I don't really have any, ideas about trying to be famous or trying to monetize or anything like that. It's great. It's fun. It's wonderful. And I think it's something that the music community really needs is encouragement. We need to be uplifting each other, applauding each other, helping each other out. And I'm happy to help with that and do that and have that be part of, what I give back to the community. But yeah, it is a lot to try and keep it all going. And so I'm passionate around all of it. But and like I said, I've leaned toward doing that brand and just putting it all under one house, and I may go that direction.
Yeah, that seems like a safe move. And you know what? I would, as I hear you say that and how excited you are about it, a couple things is one is it gets a lot easier. Every single episode you do gets easier. And there will come a point, right, where, you know what I mean? Like if you just do it if you're just always doing it, you can stay on a consistent cycle of putting things out, right? Again, it becomes an atomic habit, right? Which is, gosh, I'm so hot on that book right now. I'm so into habit tracking because it's so effective. Is that time is going to cut in half of what it takes you to do it. And then you will get to a point where someone will come and want to sponsor your podcast, right? And maybe co-sponsor this podcast with you because you're doing great work. Those things will surface. You said you're feeling like a failure, and as soon as you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, that is it. That I feel that sense all the time, and like I spend a lot of time asking the universe. I'm like, just give me like a little sign, like just say like, give me some kind of thing where it's like you should keep doing this. Like anything will do, just a little something. You know what I mean? And that comment you got from the person that was listening to your podcast that was encouraged by it, like that is a little something that I think really has a lot of weight with me, because we're all trying to do new things that are in new spaces, and we're trying to do them without being gross. And I'm not going to name any like names, or there is a lot of really gross marketing out there, right? And I'm so repelled by it. And it's, I know that there's lots of books and how it's traditionally been done and how people are building their businesses around what they think it's going to do from a monetary standpoint or whatever, how they've been taught, but it's so gross. And what you do is so cool. So if you can remember that it's a slower, longer route to get where you're going by being awesome, just keep your eyes really open to being like, oh, this is energizing me. I love it. Here's a sign that this is something that's like, I should keep working on. I'm getting something out of it. Gosh, we don't know what this stuff's going to lead to, right? And what we're going to get out of it. So,
right.
Yeah, it's
so
awesome.
So what you're saying is I can send my pitch deck to Fons pretty soon.
Yes, I'm saying you can for sure, because I know that podcasts are a large part of what is coming next in our world, and we love you. So we're similar in vibe. So please do.
The Fons Podcast Network.
All right.
Oh yes. I saw Celeste had her hand up too. Celeste, did you have something you wanted to say, or did you take that down? Did I miss you?
No, you're good. I just wanted to say, like, maybe if you're looking at your priorities and there's not something in your business life that you want to take off the table, maybe there's something in your private life that you could take off the table. So I know for me, I have a goal. When I hit a certain income mark, I'm going to hire someone to do house cleaning for me so I don't have to do that. Like, maybe there's something you could do that could take things off your plate in your private life, because probably you're making more per hour in your professional life than it would take you to hire someone to assist in the private life. I don't know.
That's a really good point, because
point.
even though I'm not making any money on the podcast, you're right. Sometimes I compartmentalize too much and say, well, because I'm not making money on the podcast, I can't hire a producer. But I could, like from my studio business, I could do that. You're right. Thank you.
Yeah. And Karen, did you want to say something there to follow up on that?
Yeah, I guess my thought was and this has to do with like a piece of American culture that I've become a little bit more aware of, but there's so much pressure to turn our hobbies into a side hustle. And oftentimes, I wonder if it sounds like you've got all the energy you have to be making these things happen at the level you want them to happen. Maybe you do need to integrate them under one roof just to save yourself a little bit of bandwidth on that. But I think the thing that we often forget is not everything needs to be its own separate side business. And at the end of the day, and this is what I've been struggling to balance, is I've been doing all of my things, trying to figure out what kind of students I want, while managing a small studio, because the kind of energy that I put out with each of my students means I can only see 2 or 3 a day. I love it, but that is my limit. If I want to have energy to then personally continue to develop my own art form, which I also need to do if I'm to continue being the type of teacher that I want to be. So not everything needs to be its own thing. I mean, everything, why can't it all just be Melissa Inc? Why can't it all be just, these are all the things that I dabble in. Here's all the resources I'm trying to put out right now. My own solution for my own podcast, which I'm doing very infrequently right now, is just to learn, to minimize the editing, to find platforms that minimize the editing process, to listen back several times to ones that I've done in the past to figure out better ways to lead the conversation so that I don't have to edit as much. So, those are side things, but not everything needs to be its own full side business. That was just my thought.
I love that.
I love it too.
Thank you.
Which is like, yeah, you can just do it because you love it. We can't do everything. That's it. We just can't do everything. And I love Karen, you just reiterated that thing. You're like, now I do the podcast this way, so I don't have to edit it as much. That's the thing of doing it every day. We talked about last week too, that Seth Godin masterclass he did at Juilliard, where he just challenged each person that he talked to post something for 100 days. Every single day, no matter what, you post something. And at the end of that 100 days, you'll know something, right? You'll know what you liked, what worked, what people responded to, what they didn't respond to. It's just, it gets easier. So I don't know, Steve, I see you wanted to jump in there. Are you still there? Yeah, buddy.
I'm still here. How do I put my hand down? Lower hand.
I can. Yeah.
There we go. So listen, I missed some of that. I had to do some dog maintenance, so I apologize about that. But I would say, you've got a similar setup to what I'm doing now, where you have your studio is running, it's paying the bills, and it frees up some time. Hopefully we're not doing this in a way where we're teaching 50 hours a week. So it frees up time for other projects, and you kind of figure out what gets traction, what you like doing. And I've had some things now that are working, but I've started all of these little, I don't even say side hustle, but kind of like, I'm going to amplify the teaching work through this project. Oh, that one doesn't work. And I've like pulled the plug on so many of them and figuring out kind of what works and what doesn't. But we have the flexibility to do that they don't all have to pay right now. But yeah, something like you might want to invest in a producer if that's going to help. But it sounds like you're still loving doing the podcast. So, invest in that. And yeah, it's part of our, it's part love and hobby and passion and profession. And it's all, when it's our calling, it's all stuffed together. But yeah, if some of the other threads aren't really working right now, I've had to learn that the hard way through many projects. It took forever and then didn't get a lot of returns on. It's not, there's a bunch of things I'm interested in doing. Like they're all equally fascinating to me, but then I figure on the business side, which are the ones that get the best response and resonate with people the most. Like, well, I can put my energy in that direction. I can align it with the business stuff as well, rather than just something Steve happens to be interested in and a lot of other people don't really care about it. Other thing I wanted to say was, Eric, when I've sort of learned those moments when you feel like, oh, I should just, whatever, I should just pack it up. Like not making big decisions when you're super emotionally charged, like positive or negative, when you feel like quitting everything. I've had those feelings, or on the opposite, like that was the dream gig, that was amazing, I just want to do this forever, I want lots and lots of things like this, and then suddenly nothing's living up to the peak experience, and then just the day-to-day stuff is boring because it's not like as magical as whatever that special life-changing moment was. So it's like, well, you can't make these humongous decisions based on, you kind of have to like put a pause on when you're going to actually make those.
So basically we can go ahead and finish the mastermind now, because we've all gotten our reason for showing up, which is we're all going to commit to not making life-changing decisions when we're super emotionally charged, which is what I always do. And you're so right. Like, you're like, I'm done. I'm over this, which and I have been since like 9:30 this morning.
Yeah.
And almost like 45 minutes of just complete despondence. Oh my gosh. That's a great piece of advice that I think resonates with me. And I'm sure it does with everyone. I feel like all the stuff we're talking about is universal, right? And hopefully it's resonating with you too, is that, that's a great point. It's like, that's not the moment to make the choice.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean you have to be cold and calculated about everything, but that's not the time to make the decision. Actually, it was a mom of one of my girlfriends in college. Remember, she said that you're not allowed to make any decisions about your day while you're horizontal. Which I like. You have to be up and in the shower, and then you make a decision about your day. I have not followed that, but I know it's a great idea. But I'm always like, oh, I'll hang out in bed for another half an hour.
Yeah, because our minds go through a lot of different phases throughout the course of a day. Hey, Karen, you can go ahead, Karen, just hop in.
Yeah, the other thing that I was thinking about is that fun Jack Sparrow quote. The problem is not the problem. The problem is how you're thinking about the problem. And what I have to do often for myself when I am like, oh gosh, I really don't feel like doing this. Like, why does this particular task currently feel like I'm running a cheese grater over my brain? And then I have to step back and figure out, okay, am I hungry? Did I eat enough? Because that's, for me, I forget sometimes. Or is it not that problem at all? Is it something else that I've associated with that problem, or something else in the back of my mind that I'm trying to work out? One big example, and doesn't have to do with like running a business, except for like the Karen Inc. creative side, where I'm trying to figure out my own art form. The whole idea of story, and the whole realizing that one of the big blocks I was experiencing with learning new music, with going through that was why music, even though I'm a good musician and I know I'm a good musician, why was it in certain times being so intimidating? And then I realized that as I was learning the notes, I had been in some way conditioned to ignore some of my basic musical instincts, which is hooking into resonance, which is finding the specific thing in my own musical background that I can hook into. But this was causing problems like across my art form. But as soon as I figured out that it was that one little sticking, like, where's the bug in the system here? Sometimes it's something really, really simple, but it makes everything feel horrible. So that's another thought.
Yeah, resonating bugs is that's a great point.
I was thinking about what. Oh,
go ahead, Joellen. Yeah.
Okay. No, I was thinking about like the points Karen was making and how it relates to Melissa's challenge, and it really relates to last week's mastermind prompts that I'm like still stuck on. What do you really want? Do you want more money? Do you want more students or more work to do? Or do you want more practice? What is it that you really need? And I was thinking about it, and like I always have this drive for more students, and it's really because of the method I'm teaching. I want to be flexible with the method I'm teaching, and I need a lot of practice with lots of students, but I don't necessarily need more money. I just, of course we work for it, but it's like I need to practice more with my students. So I was like, I'm brand new to Fons, So I'm signing up, and I really want to switch over to using this as a tool to make that goal. So like the single lesson billing, instead of giving the students maximum freedom, because that's a low commitment. A low commitment is going to bring in more students, whereas a high commitment, where you have the monthly, commitment that you have to do, I'm going to have less students. So using Fons as a tool to create what I want out of my teaching. But even after that, like I was thinking, the reason why I want more practice with students is because I really want more practice. It's like I can if I know my craft myself and I have the chops on the piano myself, I'm teaching myself, and that's practice. So it comes down to this priority that I always kind of like cast off. Like people, like you always get these people are saying, no, your creativity needs to come first. And I'm like, that I always viewed it as like this luxury, for me to have fun and practice. And that's like a luxury, but it really shows how it links to being a priority, that you have that time, that space where you're developing, because everything else comes from that.
Joellen, you've got such an awesome energy. That is an inquisitive, curious. I'm sure that energy really resonates with your students too, right? And that's the vibe. You've been hanging out with Tony Parlo piano, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel I feel that energy, like because he it's so cool. But there's a couple other things that just what you're saying is really important, and also it's great that you're thinking about it, which is what you want. And something that I'm learning right now is that you can only really chase one metric well, right? Like for instance, and so you can't, if you're really focusing on something, there's really like, so if you're doing a podcast, right, and you need to follow metrics, a metric is downloads or listens. Another metric could just be, I'm not doing metrics because my metric is, who I bring on the show, right? Because another metric would be the amount of money that it's making. Any business, right? You could say my metric is how much my company makes every month, how much my studio does, how much I'm teaching. I need to increase that by X amount, right? Confusing the metric of how much money you're making with the metric of how many students you have is really, then you're on two metrics, and then it's really hard to be focused, right? So and I think that's a piece of encouragement that I'm getting a lot from people that are advising me, right, on trying to build a really large company, right? Which is, what are you going to focus on, right? The number of people that are using your app, right? The number of people you're serving, or making the people that are using the app really happy, or making your investors happy by trying to get them a return, by not burning so much money every month, or really trying to just get people on no matter what and spend a ton of money on advertising or whatever, doing whatever. What is the metric you're going after for a period of time, right? And if your metric is to just like you said, have more students so you can engage them more, or make your operations more simple, for you, it's probably helpful to have your metric be measured as your MRR, how much you're making every month. Like that could, or how many students you're seeing. Those are both viable, but it would be good once you figure out what you want to do to be like, okay, what am I going to look at? They call it the North Star sometimes. And I don't think you need to have that for like forever, but it's good to have for a piece of time. Like right now, my metric I'm trying to do is, post a podcast every week for 6 months, or, post a piece of, something creatively on my Instagram every single day as part of my strategy to get lots of new students. So anyway, that's a great comment. What a cool conversation. I feel like it's therapy in here. It's really, really nice. Someone that maybe hasn't talked, or that would have something they'd want to share, or something we could help them with. Does anybody want to jump in? I know we have some new folks here, Celeste and Alex. If there's something we could do, or if you're just hanging out, that's just fine too. I see Alex, you coming into the mix?
Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, Alex, what's up?
Hey,
welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been sorry, I've just kind of been getting going and trying to do a couple of different things, but I've definitely been listening and picked up a lot of really important. A lot of new words that you guys have been throwing out.
Well, tell us a little about yourself, Alex. You're a new friend.
Oh, I'm a musician, guitar player. Been going in a whole different kind of direction lately with the whole COVID thing. I was on the road for long, like, but from before I graduated college to right before COVID hit, full time. And
You lived on the road.
yeah, it was full time. I had got rid of my apartment about 5 years ago in Chicago, and thanks, Nick. And I had got a good, traveling gig, playing guitar, and then after a while, my apartment and studio just became another like short destination, like temporary stop. And then I got rid of that, moved everything back to my parents' house. Eventually met a girlfriend, started moving stuff there. Then COVID hit, and and now I've been like totally rebuilding kind of my business and life. And so now I got an apartment down the street from her house, and just been my biggest struggle lately has been organizing things so I can like, I'm so used to been playing. And being part of that team where, we had an agent, we had a manager person, all I had to do was show up, play my best, pursue other interests like taking, private lessons or pursuing having a couple students, because, I like sharing what I've learned. And also, I have a couple of my own CDs that like, I'm at my friend's coffee shop.
I was like, yeah, somebody's bringing you food. I mean, it sounds like life is pretty good.
Well, it's a bit overwhelming. Maybe,
I can't imagine.
I mean, it can be good from some perspectives, but like, I guess it's kind of like a duck on water. Underneath, it's like the feet are going like 1,000,000 miles an hour. And if it looks good, then, well, I'm just barely hanging on.
I can't imagine being a full-time touring musician and then going through this last year. Most of us here all had teaching businesses, meaning March of last year, it took us we were all scrambling for 2 weeks together to get online. And then like a month later, we're all being like, I don't know if I'm ever going back to teaching in person. Right. So I think most of the people here, I would say, got more students in 2020. But for touring artists, my wife's an actor, and, theater in Seattle is just like,
okay,
there's no theater. Like there's no theater. Like it's just not happening. And gosh, they don't know what that landscape's going to look like. Touring musicians, I mean, gosh, yeah, hopefully. Yeah. So
that's
anyway,
the boat I'm in.
So you're looking to build your studio. You're looking to do some teaching.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this next couple of months, it seems like things are kind of back opening, and I even went out like, people are hopeful that things are getting back to normal, but it's like, also, I didn't want to be the sideman in a blues band my whole life. So thanks. So I'm kind of like, at some point I wanted to, I went to college for music. I write a lot of my own music. I wanted to be kind of my own entity, my own artist. And COVID is kind of giving me a breath of fresh air to do that.
I think a lot of people are saying that.
Yeah, along with doing that, aside from, the large number of other people that have been doing it, which has made it incredibly more competitive in an already, very saturated marketplace. It's just a lot, going from, I wouldn't say the band I was in was a large business or a corporation by any means, but I mean, we at least had a structured team together where, I only had to focus on
doing right
one
now.
thing.
Are they all in the same boat you are?
One of them, the band leader, moved down to Florida, and he knows a club owner and he's, playing a couple 5, 6 nights a week, just in the house band kind of thing. Because we were nationally touring, so that's just like shut down. That's
well, man, hang in there. it sounds like you're doing as well as you possibly can. It sounds like you got espresso and it looks like flapjack. It sounds like life could be worse. Like, you got friends. And this is a great group, Alex. As you're looking to, bounce ideas around and try new things, this is a great place to post those things you're doing, and folks here will listen to what you're doing and see what you're up to. So thanks for sharing
Thank
that,
you.
man. Yeah, dude.
Thank you for asking, man. Thank you
Yeah,
very
you
much.
got it. Hang in there. Gosh, everybody I know that's touring or doing performing full time, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. What a year. What a year.
Yeah.
But we're gonna get through it.
But thanks for the encouragement. Definitely, very much. Thank
And
you.
people are gonna want to see shows big time. Oh my gosh. I have a thing right now where, like, it's deep in my heart. Like, I would take my dream right now is to play at like a dive bar, maybe Blue Moon or something, Steve, something like that. And I will only accept payment for like a large plate of nachos, maybe the Sunset. I just want to have someone bring me nachos after a gig at a dive bar, and that's all I need. If I could just do that once, I feel like I'd be back. Steve, if you could get a gig, where would you play?
Oh man, I was thinking about that. Man, Blue Moon might be pushing it for.
It's intense.
I was just even thinking, it's like, oh, things are, so we're getting into phase 3 in this state, or things are looking more promising, looking ahead to, possibly being able to play out summer or fall. But I've been thinking about finding a good, I've played gigs of all sizes, but thinking, hey, I want a regular gig. I want to spot like a good coffee shop or brewery in my neighborhood, find just like a weekly, play with a bass player or something, just kind of make a little scene happen. It's like, I'm not thinking of the ambitious stuff now. It's like, oh, I just want a home base to, to play and get a beer and a sandwich. I'm on the page with you, Eric.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're ready.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I was invited back to my teaching gig in Honolulu in early July. I'm like,
oh yeah.
Are we going to make it?
Yes. You're going to make it for sure.
Okay.
Dude, yeah, we're all going to be vaccinated and holding hands before we know it. So
yeah, Eric, I got my first shot.
Nice. So yeah,
I haven't been like announcing it, but I'm like, yeah, got
well done.
So
you're ready to rock. Beautiful. Ready. And I love what you're saying here, Melissa. Was that you that just said that? Karen,
Yeah.
Karen Inc. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it just sounds like we all have this amazing gift if we would just get out of our own way.
Yeah. There's a lot of that, and letting it be, and enjoying the process, and being okay with that process of, and the other thing is that when you do something boldly, you're going to attract critics, right? And that's something that I feel, my daughter's 14 and she's very entrepreneurial, and she does these things she has products she builds where she writes fan fiction, and she has a product where she'll send you a letter written from a character in one of your favorite books, right? And she'll make a ring from that character, right? So for like $10, you can get like a letter from Draco Malfoy written to you. And I was like, that's weird, whatever. She puts this thing up, she gets like 60 orders in like 5 minutes and has to turn it off. I mean, every time. Like, all she does is just fulfill these orders. I cannot believe how effective it is. And she's already learning this thick skin, which is she'll get 100 reviews and then someone will say something mean. And it's like, she's 14, but she's like learning that skill. But like, okay, she's completely unflappable about it. Like, doesn't bother her at all. She's so like, and it's so great to see that be learned, because the more we do, and the more we kind of go big, you attract people that want to push you down, right? For whatever their reasons are. And it's that is something that is really, especially when there's people that you trust, right? People that you that maybe look up to or trust, that see you maybe coming in their realm or their milieu of what they specialize in and becoming negative, So it's really also just being confident and trusting and being okay with what the things you can't control, right, come up with. So that's a
given for getting your stuff out there. I mean, what's that? There's this Aristotle quote. I don't know if he actually said it, but yeah, the surefire way to avoid criticism, which is to, what is it? Do nothing, say nothing, be nothing. You hide, and then you'll avoid criticism, and you've got no impact. You're not doing anything. So I mean, yeah, that comes with the territory. If you're doing something that people are noticing, trolls. Yeah, that's just, it can be hard, but it's
Yeah.
just like that's just part of the that just comes with it. There's no avoiding it.
Yep, sure enough. Wait, did you
Um,
have something? And I
yeah,
see
yeah,
you too,
Melissa.
Celeste. I'll be right with you. What's that, Alex?
Oh, Melissa said to share these books. Like you said, stay out of your own way, and that's something I really struggle with. So like, dissolving the ego and realizing the self is one book I read from, and then also this book called The Obstacle Is the Way.
Oh, I
Oh
know the
yeah,
obstacle is the
Ryan
way.
Holiday. Yeah,
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's like this. Yes, stoicism for people like me,
yeah,
not be able to digest it.
and it's just like little quotes that just help, like when you get like into that. I actually yesterday I tried taking this anxiety pill for the first time in my life. I turned into like a vegetable. I hated it. I took them to the police station today and like turned them in. I said, I'm not taking these ever again,
Hmm.
because it was I think I just got to reconnect with myself, like, and learn when I'm staying out of my own, or how to stay when I'm being my own obstacle, and not, or like being self-aware, or being what, I don't know. It's a
Oh, I hear you
yeah,
loud and
learning how
clear.
to, yeah, okay, thanks.
Yeah, man, that makes total. Yeah. And what was the first book? I have the second. What was that first one you called?
Dissolving the ego and realizing the self.
Who wrote that? Can you tell us? Does that say David Hawkins?
Well, it says it's contemplations from teaching of David Hawkins, but I think it was edited by someone. So it looks like someone went through his work
Yeah.
and represented it.
Oh, cool. Well,
But
thanks for sharing that. Appreciate
yeah,
it.
well, when you say get out of your own way, it's like, oh wow, I've given that same advice, and I need to take it myself.
Yes, Celeste, you had something you wanted to share. Please do.
Well, it was on a little bit different topic, so I don't want to insert it unless we're finished with this topic. So it was going to be
Feel free to bounce around. We're flexible.
okay. I had a question about hiring a web designer. I'm in this space of looking for someone to build me a WordPress site, and I have been looking for someone for a while, and I'm a little bit unsure about how do you find someone to build a WordPress site. Like I know like Fiverr and things like that are there, but there's just so many people that do web design. How do you find someone that like is on the same track or shares similar priorities, or how do you find like the right web designer for you? Because I see so many people who have great websites, and I also see so many people who have not so great websites. How much of having a great website is me having great ideas and creating great content, and how much of that is the web designer making it look amazing? And then how do you find the right web designer? Just if you guys have any words of wisdom.
We can go all day on that.
I can jump in real quick. Yeah, part of that is like knowing what your budget is, what you want the thing to look like. Like I've had good luck just DIYing stuff. Like on Squarespace, if you've got some good photos, you can make something look pretty nice on Squarespace and get like something up, even if it's just a brochure. And then from there, I've had web people help. Once I make it look as good as I can, and then I've had web people help out. And oftentimes I've had good luck with people that are kind of getting into it and building their portfolio and building something nice. But if you've got $5,000 to build the site and you want all this extra deluxe stuff on it, then you can hire a pro and pay them what they're worth. But if that's not in your budget, kind of seeing what you can do if you've got the patience for doing it. But I found Squarespace, some people like Wix, pretty easy to DIY something, and then you just like get it up, you get your domain, your pictures there, you have your homepage, your about, a link to contact, and you got something. And then from there you can figure out what you need. But if you've no interest in even doing that, some people are like, I know I'm not gonna make this work on the building my own thing. But I kind of like that approach. But if you just have a pile of money set aside and then you want to hire someone awesome, I've no idea what to do with that in that case.
Celeste,
Yeah,
I also, oh, sorry. not to interrupt. I saw Melissa put down Christina Loprior's name, who's someone who's in the space, does a lot. And there's also Jana Carlson. They specialize, and this is, and then Nicolo Ricardo is someone else who has a firm. Those are three people that are in the space of you want an independent music teacher website, right? That's kind of
yes. I currently have a WordPress site that I built myself, but I don't like it. So
okay.
I need
So
to let me run and grab a pencil so I can write those names down.
Yeah,
well, I'd write them down.
Jana has that course on building your own. How to
She
make your own
does.
site.
She does great work, and Jana did she also did like the Seattle Music Teachers Association website. She did a great job with that. They're really cool. But I think it's to get back to your question about finding the right person is also like what you want it to do. For instance, I know for a fact that if it's converting to new students, that Nicola Ricardo built one of the best converting websites for one of our clients on the Fons platform that I've ever seen in my life. And I know it because I see what this person's doing through their business, which is insane. How fast they've grown since they've launched it. So there, if you're looking for conversions, talk to somebody who specializes in converting and writing copy for that and building websites around that. If you're the other thing is just what you vibe with. I've interviewed probably, we're totally overhauling and rebuilding Fons.com right now. And, I interviewed probably 10 copy editors and then 10 web designers. And I go by feel, right? Because I'm really want to be part of the creative process, right? And I'm really opinionated about that one thing because aesthetic and that process really matters to me, probably more than it should. But I go by connection, right? And I think if you're doing something, if you're going to like say you're going to build it yourself, you can do it for nothing. But if you want to put $3,000 to $5,000 into building a website, I would talk to all three of those people. See if there's somebody that feels really good to you that you feel like, wow, this is something that's going to serve me well for the next 5 years. Because in 5 years, it's going to be really dated.
If I can just add to that,
Yeah,
since
sure.
you already have your own website, you can save money regardless of who you hire. You can save money by having certain things done ahead of time, which is what I did last summer. Have your logo already done, have your branding, color scheme, and your font scheme already done, have your copy already written, have a lot of that stuff already done or started or in process so that the person who's designing for you can look at what you have and then help you take it to the next level. But if they have starting points, you save a ton of time and a ton of money as you onboard that person and they work with you. My website for my course last year only cost me $1,000 because I already had everything done. I just needed my developer to get it up there and to get the SEO going and to get the just all the other components done that I didn't want to do. So I had everything ready to go, and that saved me a couple $1,000.
That's super helpful.
Yeah, and Jana Carlson has her they design sites, but she also has a course on like DIYing your site. And I think that's through Squarespace also. I built my own. Well, I had someone help me with a WordPress site. My problem with WordPress, I know it's better now with Gutenberg, but I was relying on these plugins that would like update or not update and crash the site, and I kept having to call the person that built it, and I couldn't manage it myself. And then so WordPress can be the most powerful one if you've got someone working on it. Otherwise, I've had luck with the Squarespace ones I've done. They don't crash themselves.
Really
and it works. So, but yeah, trying to maintain. Yeah, if I was going to have to maintain WordPress myself, I would need to learn more coding and all that. But that's great advice from Melissa. Yeah, the more you've done, especially if you've got photos, you've got a logo. But the web person may have ideas for their aesthetic too. So you got a starting point, and they go, oh, these fonts are actually maybe not so great. Okay, well at least you started with something, and then they can, and then they have an idea of what, kind of what you're going for. But yeah,
that's helpful. So there was Jana Carlson, Christina, and who was the third person that you recommended?
Oh,
Nicole Ricardo. I don't, I know. I'm just getting to know Nicole, but I know she does good work. Like I think they all do great work, and they're really devoted kind of to this space, and they know it well.
And yeah, they're all in the Fons group as well and active, so be a good starting point.
Yeah, you could learn a lot by just spending a little time chatting with them for sure. Okay. And at the end of the day, you might want to just you could also there might be someone, maybe you find someone that just feels really great locally, or it's really you need to connect with them. I love the idea of getting as many of the assets in place as you can. And maybe you need a rebranding. Like maybe you need that first step with a designer to like, hey, I want to do my branding. I want to do a great logo, do the font set, your color schemes. Having that in place is huge. Like a branding guide is the best tool that all of us should have. Because it just saves so much time, and it's an expectation for most businesses, but it could be really good. So anyway, we're out of time. This was really awesome. I really appreciate you all being here. If anybody would like to stay and chat for just a second, I've got 3 to 5 minutes if they have a question they'd want to kind of do off the record. But if not, it's so good to see you. This was a great chat. And I'm glad we got to do it on Wednesday. I'm so glad everybody could make it. And we'll do it again next week. So I'm going to hang around for a few if you want to stay. And if not, I'll catch you next week. Thank you so much, everybody. See you soon.